She woke up on an ordinary spring morning and looked in the mirror as she did every day. But this time, something was different, because for the first time in 30 years, Emily knew that the face she saw wasn't really hers. The name she carried, the family she knew, the story she believed to be hers. Everything was someone else's. And the real Emily, the one who should have lived that life, was somewhere in the world living hers. Two women, two lives, exchanged at the most vulnerable moment of existence. And no one noticed for 3 decades how much of your identity survives when you discover that it was never yours. Emily Claire Dawson was born, or so everyone believed, on September 7, 1993, at St. Mary's Hospital in Richmond, Virginia, the daughter of Jonathan and Patricia Dawson. She grew up in a colonial home in the posh suburb of Henrico County. Impeccable garden, 2 garages, a golden retriever named Daisy, the perfect life of the American upper middle class. Jonathan was a cardiovascular surgeon. Patricia, corporate lawyer. Both were successful, both demanding. Emily grew up under sky-high expectations. Perfect notes, extracurricular activities, piano at the age of 5, tennis at 7, Mandarin at 10. She was the model daughter. But he never felt comfortable in this role. There was something wrong, something she couldn't name. Emily didn't like to compete. He hated the pressure. She preferred to draw alone in her room than to be in the tennis tournaments that her mother insisted she attend. You need to try harder, Patricia would say, frustrated. You have everything to be exceptional, Jonathan reinforced. But Emily didn't want to be exceptional. She just wanted to be. At school, Emily was quiet, observer. He had few friends. She spent her breaks in the library, reading fantasy books, imagining worlds where she didn't have to prove anything to anyone. At the age of 8, she noticed something strange. She didn't look like either of her parents. Jonathan had red hair and fair skin that turned red in the sun. Patricia was tall, thin, with angular features. Emily had dark brown hair, skin that tanned easily, and almond-shaped eyes that didn't look like anyone else in the family. Genetics is unpredictable, Patricia said when Emily asked. You pulled your great-grandparents, Jonathan added. Emily accepted, because it was easier to accept than to question. But the questions did not disappear. At the age of 12, Emily had a severe allergic crisis. He ended up in a hospital. Doctors asked for a complete family medical history. Patricia hesitated. There's nothing relevant, she said, but the doctors insisted. They did tests. They discovered that Emily had a rare genetic condition. It's hereditary, the doctor explained. Someone in the family must have it too. Patricia and Jonathan had tests. Neither of them had the condition. Spontaneous mutation, the doctor concluded. But Emily saw the look on her parents' faces. Something didn't add up. Emily graduated from high school in 2011 with honors. Not because I wanted to, but because it was what was expected of her. He entered the University of Virginia to study law. It was Patricia's dream, not hers. Emily hated every second of it. She wanted to study arts. I wanted to draw, paint, create, but this was not practical. It wasn't a real career. In her 20s, Emily had a nervous breakdown. She stopped going to class. He locked himself in the dormitory. He cried nonstop. It wasn't just the academic pressure. It was something deeper, a feeling of emptiness, to be living someone else's life, of not belonging to one's own body. You're under stress, the university psychologist said. It's common in law students. But it was not only that. Emily tried to explain the feeling of disconnection, of not recognizing one's own history, to look at childhood photos and not feel that that child was her. Dissociation, the psychologist diagnosed. Let's work on it. Emily took medication. He went to therapy. He went back to class. But the feeling didn't go away. At the age of 23, Emily met Mark. He was an assistant professor of art history. Kind, patient. He saw something in her that no one else saw. You have talent, he said as he saw the drawings Emily was hiding in an old notebook. My parents don't think so. But what do you think? Emily didn't know. They started dating. Mark encouraged her to draw, to be created, to be who she really was, not who they expected her to be. For the first time, Emily felt like she could breathe. They married in 2018. Patricia and Jonathan attended the ceremony, but were far apart. They disapproved. Mark was not a doctor. He was not a lawyer. He was just a teacher. "You're throwing your life away," Patricia said at the farewell. Emily felt it like a punch, but he continued. She and Mark moved to Charlottesville. Emily dropped out of law school and started working as a freelance graphic designer. "I didn't earn much, but he was happy, or almost, because the feeling of disconnection continued." She looked in the mirror and didn't fully recognize herself. He looked at his parents and felt that there was an invisible wall between them. He looked at his own life and felt that he was living a script written by someone else. In January 2023, Emily received a call. It was from a woman named Sarah. She worked at a genetic testing company. "Mrs. Dawson, did you take a DNA test with us recently?" Emily frowns you ahead. "No, I never did." "Strange, because a match has appeared in our system. A very close match." "Correspondence?" "Yes, someone who is genetically very close to you, possibly a sister." Emily felt her stomach turn. "I have no siblings." "According to our records, you have, and she'd like to get in touch." Emily hung up the phone with shaky hands. "Sister? She has always been an only child. Always." Emily called Patricia. "Do you have a sister who never told me?" Silence on the other end of the line. "Mom." "I don't," Patricia said, her voice strained. "So why does a DNA company say I have a genetic match?" "These tests are not reliable." "Mom, I want answers." Patricia Desligou. Emily stared at her phone, her heart racing. She logged into the genetic testing company's website and created an account. He ordered a kit. When the kit arrived, she collected the saliva sample and sent it. Mark noticed the tension. "What's going on?" "I don't know," Emily said, "but I'll find out." 3 weeks later, the results came in. Emily opened the email with trembling hands, and what she saw made her collapse. According to the genetic test, Jonathan and Patricia Dawson were not his biological parents. 0 genetic matching. 0. Emily read it again. And again. It didn't make sense. How could that be? She called the company. He spoke to a geneticist. "Could there be a mistake?" she asked, her voice breaking. "The tests are 99.9% accurate," he explained. "If there is no genetic match, then the people listed as your biological parents are not." "But how?" "There are several possibilities. Adoption, artificial insemination, or..." He paused. "Or what?" "Or changing babies in the hospital." Emily felt the world spin. Emily confronted her parents. She went to Richmond unannounced. He knocked on the door of the house where he grew up. Patricia answered. His face turned pale at the sight of Emily. "We need to talk," Emily said. They sat in the living room. The same sofa as always. The same coffee table. Everything is so familiar. And, at the same time, completely strange. Emily put the result of the genetic test on the table. "Explain." Jonathan looked at the paper. He said nothing. Patricia looked away. "Explain." Emily shouted. Patricia closed her eyes. "We didn't know," she whispered. "Didn't you know what?" "That you were not our biological daughter." The words fell like bombs. Emily felt the tears begin to fall. "How did you not know?" Jonathan finally spoke. "When you were born, the hospital was chaotic. There was a storm, power outage, many babies being born at the same time. We take you home. And we never questioned it. But I don't look like you." Emily shouted. "I never looked like it. Have you never suspected it?" "Children don't always look like their parents," Patricia said, her voice defensive. "That's no excuse." Emily stood up, her body shaking. "You raised me my whole life as if I were someone I'm not. They made me study law. They made me play the piano. You molded me to be the daughter you wanted." "We love you," Patricia said, tears flowing. "But they didn't know me," Emily replied, "because I wasn't who you thought I was. and you never bothered to find out who I really was." She left the house before they could respond. Emily got into the car and cried. He cried for hours, because everything made sense now. The feeling of disconnection, of not belonging, to be living someone else's life. It was because she was literally living the life that was someone else's, and that other person was living hers. Emily returned to Charlottesville in shock. She told Mark everything. He hugged her as she cried. "What do I do now?" she asked. "You find your real family." Emily contacted the genetic testing company. They connected her with the genetic match that had appeared. Her name was Anna Margaret Collins. Emily typed her name on social media, found a profile, and when she saw the photo, her heart stopped. Anna had her face. Exactly her face. Same eyes, same face shape, same mouth. It was like looking into a mirror. Emily sent a message. "Hi, Anna. My name is Emily. I think we need to talk." The answer came in minutes. "I know who you are. I've been looking for you my whole life." They arranged to meet. A week later, Emily was sitting in a cafe in Richmond, waiting. When Anna entered, Emily felt as if time had stopped. They were identical. Anna sat down. The two were silent for a long moment, just looking at each other. "I always knew something was wrong," Anna said finally. "My mother told me when I was 18 that I was not her biological daughter, that there was confusion in the hospital. And you looked for me? I tried, but the records were messy. The hospital denied it. Nobody wanted to admit the mistake. It wasn't until I did the genetic test that I was able to find you." Emily felt the tears return. "I've lived your life," she said. "And I lived yours," Anna replied. They both cried, because it was true. Emily grew up with Anna's parents. She lived the life Anna should have lived. She studied law because that was what Anna's parents expected. And Anna grew up with Emily's parents. She lived the life that Emily should have lived. "What were your parents like?" Emily asked. "Creative. Free. My mother is a painter. My father is a musician. They always encouraged me to explore, to create, to be myself." Emily felt a tightness in her chest, because that was the life she always wanted. "What about yours?" Anna asked. "Rigid. Demanding. I've always been pressured to be perfect." Anna nodded, as if she understood. "I've always felt out of place," she said. "My parents wanted me to be an artist, but I wanted stability, structure. I studied administration. I became a project manager. They never understood." Emily looked at Anna, and he did. They had lived inverted lives. Emily had the personality of Anna's parents. Anna had the personality of Emily's parents. But they were raised by the wrong families, and that shaped everything. Every decision, every conflict, every moment of disconnection. It all made sense now. But knowing this did not bring relief. It brought pain. Emily and Anna decided to investigate together. They went to St. Mary's Hospital. The administration denied any error. "Our protocols are strict," the director said. "But there was a trade-off," Emily insisted. "We have genetic proof." That was 30 years ago. The records from that time are incomplete. Emily didn't give up. She hired a lawyer. He filed a lawsuit. He demanded access to hospital records. It took months. But finally, the documents were released. And there it was. September 7th, 1993. Severe storm. Power outage. Baby identification system off the air for 3 hours. 2 girls were born at the same time. Emily Claire Dawson, Anna Margaret Collins. They were taken to the nursery together. And when the power came back, the identification bracelets were changed. No one noticed. The families took the babies home, believing they were their biological daughters, and they lived 30 years in lies. Emily read the report with trembling hands. A mistake, a simple human error, and 2 entire lives were exchanged. Anna looked at her. What do we do now? Emily didn't know. They got to know each other's biological families. Emily met Linda and Robert Collins, her real parents. They greeted her with tears and hugs. "We never stopped feeling like something was wrong," Linda said. Anna never quite fit in, And now we understand why. Emily looked at those people. Genetically, they were his parents, but they were strangers. She had no memories with them. There was no history. There was no connection. Anna met Jonathan and Patricia. It was strange for everyone, because now they knew. Anna was their biological daughter, but Emily was the one they created, and no one knew how to deal with it. Emily went back to look for Patricia and Jonathan. "I need to understand," she said. "Why did you put so much pressure on me? Why have they never listened to me?" Patricia looked at her, her eyes red. "Because we thought we knew what was best. You were our daughter, or we thought it was, and we wanted you to succeed. But you never asked me what I wanted." "No," Jonathan admitted. "We don't ask." Emily felt something break inside her. "I've spent my whole life trying to be who you wanted, and now I find out that she wasn't even his real daughter. So everything was useless." "It wasn't useless," Patricia said, her voice breaking. "We love you. That will never change." "But you didn't know me," Emily said. "They never met." She left, and this time he didn't come back. Emily also talked to Linda and Robert. "I wish I had grown up with you," she said honestly. "Maybe I would have been happier. Or maybe not," Robert said gently. "Life has no guarantees. But I would have had the chance to be myself." "You still can," Linda said. "It's not too late." But Emily knew it was, because she was 30. 3 decades already lived. Decisions already made. She couldn't go back and relive her childhood. I couldn't get a second chance. The lost time was lost forever. Emily and Anna kept in touch. They saw each other once a month. They talked about their lives, about how everything could have been different. "Do you think we would be happier if we had grown up with our biological families?" Anna once asked. Emily thought, "I don't know. Perhaps. Or maybe just different." "Do you regret it?" "Of what?" "To discover the truth." Emily looked out the window. "No, because now I understand. I understand why I've always felt out of place. Because I never fit in. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't because I was defective. It was because I was in the wrong place." "But does that change anything?" Anna asked. Emily thought for a long time. "It changes everything. And it doesn't change anything. Because the truth was this. Emily was still Emily. Even though I knew I wasn't who I thought I was. Even though he knew he lived someone else's life. She was still her. Your tastes, your dreams, your choices. None of this changed. But it also changed because now she knew that part of the person she had become was shaped by a lie, by a mistake, for a life that should never have been hers. And that was a wound that would never heal completely. Emily continued drawing. She remained married to Mark. He continued to live in Charlottesville. But now, when I looked in the mirror, I saw something different. Not just your face, but the lives that existed inside him. The Emily who was raised by the Dawsons. The Emily that should have been raised by the Collins. And the Emily that existed beyond all that. Who was the real one? She would never know, because they were all real, and none of them were complete. In 2024, Emily painted a canvas. It was a self-portrait, but it had 2 faces, overlapping, intertwined, almost identical, but not exactly. She called the work 30 years, and when people asked what it meant, she just smiled, because there were no words to explain it. What does it mean to live the wrong life? What does it mean to find out, too late, that you could have been someone else entirely? Emily had no answers. There was only pain and acceptance that some things cannot be undone, some losses cannot be recovered, and some identities remain forever divided. Emily was 30 years old when she discovered that the life she lived was never really hers. 3 decades building an identity that belonged to someone else. And now, even though she knows the truth, she can't go back. Time does not wait. Choices do not unravel. And the person you become carries all the lives you could have lived. What about you? If you found out that you lived the wrong life for decades, would you be able to rebuild who you are? Leave it in the comments. And sign up to follow other stories of people who discovered they were never who they thought they were.